In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Tonight, family, we step into a conversation that sits at the crossroads of innovation, equity, and the future of human-centered healthcare. In America in Black and White, we tell the stories of leaders who are shaping systems, transforming communities, and redefining what excellence looks like in spaces where our voices have too often been overlooked. Our guest this evening is one of those leaders, a visionary whose work spans hospitals, federal agencies, Fortune 100 companies, academic institutions, and the innovation ecosystems that are building tomorrow's breakthroughs. Timothy E. Butts is not simply a technologist. He is a builder of systems, a designer of solutions, and a champion for the people who rely on those systems every day. His career has touched Mayo Clinic, Eli Lilly, Texas Children's Hospital, Indian Health Services, Booz Allen Hamilton, and the Wharton School of Business. He has led multi-million-dollar modernization programs, advanced clinical research informatics, and shaped the national conversation on AI adoption, digital transformation, and equitable healthcare delivery. But behind the credentials is a story rooted in family, purpose, in the influences of his mother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Reverend Jesse Jackson. A story of a Black man navigating and transforming some of the most complex institutions in America. Tonight, we explore that story. Tonight, we honor that journey. Tonight, we welcome a leader who is building the future with intention, intelligence, and heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Timothy E. Butts Sr., please. Hello,
Hey, good
sir.
evening.
How are you?
How are you, sir? Are you my brother?
I am excellent. Thanks
I'm
for
well.
being here.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. So before we get started,
thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Yes, sir. Before we get started, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience?
Well, good evening, America. Good evening, all listeners. It's a blessing to be here with you. It's a real opportunity I couldn't pass up, both to share, to put things in perspective that I'm both aware of, that I'm helping to create, but I'm also blessed to be a recipient of, as others have created and built with me. And I want to always encourage you to be aware that we are constantly building. Despite the hurdles, we must look forward and land the prize. And I'm here for a word of encouragement to you. So let's break it down.
Yes, sir. So before we get started, so there's quite a bit of hellos here that are in the chat. And I just want to say to each and every individual here that is in the chat, thank you guys for being here, and we appreciate you. So as we start here, can you tell us, sir, who is Timothy E. Butts Sr. at his core beyond the titles and accomplishments?
That's a question for me. So the question is, who am I at my core? At the core, I am the
Yes, sir.
youngest of six. I am a business, okay, the youngest of six. I'm a business professional. I am a deacon. I am a person who strives to set a positive vision. People would say I'm sometimes overwhelming with my positivity and my optimism, but I'm also one who knows how I need to, and I'm one who wants to lead the fight with conviction. So that's who I am at my core. I'm a proud father of two, and I'm just blessed to be here by grace.
Mm. So, what was your childhood like, and how did it shape your curiosity for technology and systems?
At the core, as I look back where I'm literally sitting now and what bridges have brought me to this space, I am blessed by my parents both working for the VA hospital. And in working there, they would engage us in talking about the perspectives of hospital life, healthcare, the disparities, but also at that time, the Vietnam War was raging. I distinctly remember as a child, my parents were very engaging, both in church, community, and at the workplace. And I remember them sometimes bringing strangers, friends home on Sunday afternoons. And that exposed me early to a self-awareness as a child, but also a self-awareness of what other people's needs were, a spirit of service, but also a self-awareness. So at my core and at my youth, as the youngest of six, my siblings would tease me, but they'd also always be protective of me. But my parents were really trying to open doors and trying to pave the way for us to have opportunities and be aware of what we were up to and what they were doing. So we'd always have that perspective. It was always a perspective of hope, of strength, of resilience. And my mom, even now, as my mom is 102 years old and still goes to the gym every day. Yeah, right? It's been amazing because that same spirit swims in my entire family. So that's who I am at my core, and that's what I'm proud to look back on, but also enjoy right now. I'm blessed by it.
So, tell us, being the youngest, how did that bring about the character of you of learning from those before you?
Sometimes I would tease them and say, it's a joy to watch you guys make mistakes. That way I know what not to do. And I know that my brother, when he watches this, he's going to be saying, oh, yeah, I remember you used to say that all the time. And then he'd come over and pop me upside the head or something. But it was a lot of that type of love, man. It was really a case of six of us. My mom, who was a trained vocalist, but also a clinician, used to teach us all. This is in the 1960s, okay? She would teach us all to sing our various parts. So we were actually, all six of us would travel in these little costumes, very much like the Von Trapp family singers, right? And we'd win talent shows, but she wanted us to all be integrated, family oriented, and growing up like that, the real spirit of that as the youngest really permeates even to this day.
Mm. So, when did you first realize you had a gift for solving complex problems?
Oh, early on, my siblings would remind me of that because on one hand, where I was teasing them and saying, I'm watching you make mistakes, so I won't, they would turn that around and say, okay, you got the answers. Now you got to step up front and show us what we need to do. So I recall even in tragic times, I was asked by the family to step up and lead, whether it was for the mourning of my father when he passed away, but to coordinate, be the spokesperson, be the coordinator, etc., with broader parts of the family. But also as a father of two, I just felt ready and very prepared by those activities as my youth and as I grew to step up. I've always had a knack for being able to be a crisis manager, and I don't sweat the small stuff. I mean, with God on my side, I tend to have more faith than fear, and that's how I operate.
So, what role did your mother play in shaping your values and leadership style?
Being very focused on service, being focused on never being alone, and knowing that if you're doing right, you should be aware, you should be self aware that God's already inside of you. So why be fearful? So even in the things I do today, but even as a child, let's be candid. I used to get teased by my last name when I'm little. You know how cruel kids can be. I learned
Right.
how to fight. I learned how to fight very early. So there'll be times in first and second grade, other kids are messing with me, and I turn around. I would like try to pop them in the head or pop them in the throat. I remember my
Mhm.
father specifically would say, "Don't start fights, but if you have to start a fight, know how to finish it. Or if you get in a fight, know how to finish it." So he's told me put up my dukes, learn how to do it, and that's back in the days when a fight was just putting up your dukes. Now they'll just
Yes.
shoot you just for looking at them the wrong way. But but I learned that early, and I'm blessed that I remember as a paper boy, one time some guys started to jump me, and they didn't know my route. So I specifically made my way back to that house. They didn't know it was my family's house. I came to the door, said, "I'm here to collect." And the dudes was like, my family was like, "What? What?" I said, "I'm here to collect. There's some guys over my shoulder. They want to jump me." So my brothers went around my back. And so as soon as I got something and started coming down the steps, those dudes turned around. My brothers were waiting for him. So it was already a great thing to know I had this type of reinforcements.
Wow. So, as and when you mentioned that you had a paper route,
Yeah.
in doing the paper route, what was the motivation of you actually getting that paper route, and what did it set for you today?
Oh, man. Being a self starter, learning business, learning how to balance money, learning the importance of interaction with my neighbors, actually trying to build a sense of community, neighbor, um, responsibility, getting there, doing a favor, and then, um, but your rented or served knows that's what was up. Are you able to hear me all right? Okay.
Yes, sir. It's like you getting a little delay sometimes, and then sometimes it gets a
Yeah.
little robotic, but
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, cool.
how did your early experiences as a black man in STEM influence your career trajectory?
So I was interested in technology because I was in a time where initially the technology that we used in our house were tape recorders, television, that type of thing. But my brother Marcus was really into playing with gadgets. I remember he entered the science fair and he would always show us all these crazy ideas he would do. But he was so into the things that if he found the Latin translation of something, he would either speak to about it in Latin, in Greek, and then say, "And here's what it is," and he'd present it really grandiose. So my immersion in technology both came from what my parents brought home and showed us, what I was watching and learning from peers, but also the immersion of things changing. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have been born at a time when innovation was changing. Coming right out of high school, I was selected and earned my way into an organization called Inroads. And in that, my first internship was as a telecommunications trainee. That was when telecommunications was you're going to learn what a personal computer is, you're going to learn what a fax machine is, but you're going to teach other people what they are. Put it in perspective, this was 1980. So I had to tell the CEO of a multinational conglomerate, this is a personal computer. Those big reel to reels in the data room where you're using data cards are going to be transitioned over to large floppy disks. And I had to immerse myself well enough to be able to translate the aspects of technology so that a senior executives could both hear it, understand it, and be able to do something with it. That immersion was critical because I had the confidence, I built the confidence to both communicate that, but also they embraced me and began to pull me aside and say, okay, listen, as an intern, you're going to have these opportunities to do this. But as our telecommunications guy, we want you to get mentored. We want you to feel that we can call each other by first name. And I was not used to at age 18, 19, calling a 45, 55-year-old person by their first name. I remember Tom McManus sitting in his office with a cigar and a glass of whiskey. Yeah, back in the day, that was the real deal in a business office. But he was telling me, listen, as these things change, learn from it, learn how to invest in it, and then also take as many lessons as you can as a young man. And that way, as you get older, I'll have given you something. So I really benefited from those types of conversations.
So tell us, why technology? Why was that so important to you?
Technology, because it was something that was fast moving. It was something that I could grasp the idea of. People right now might write with a pencil and pen on paper, but I was given the opportunity to be able to translate that and say what you previously did with paper and possibly made mistakes, we're going to do it digitally. That way it's automatically backed up. And if you make mistakes, you can go to the digital version and then fix it. That way you increase your capacity of what you can actually do, as well as be able to communicate it in a smoother way. I was able to teach executives the ideas of what bits and bods were, bod rates, etc. But also I was able to teach them things like throughput. I remember teaching them the analogy of a signal going through a wire is very much like a ship going down a river. And depending on how close the ships are to each other that are passing through, that's going to affect the communication signal. Much like we experienced a second ago on this call, there may have been an effect of where there were slight delays. That's because the signal or the sound of our voices going across these lines is actually affected. One affected by distance, one affected by noise around us, one affected by the other signals that might be coming through. All of those things affect telecommunications. So I was able to master that and then pass that along to executives, and we're able to make business decisions based on what I articulated them to. So straight up lesson by full immersion. So I loved telecommunications. I loved technology. I saw things changing, and I also recognized the opportunity for growth and leadership in that. I was able to apply leadership, and by being a leader, being able to speak about something that had so much power, that also built up my confidence, not only to speak to people about technology, but speak about being a human being and know that I had value when I walked in a room. I could share, you don't know this, but here's the real deal on this. And if people didn't want to listen, they didn't. But they tended to listen because they wanted to learn more about technology, especially when it was at the crossroads. I was in that company at Allegheny International, which was the parent company for what was Sunbeam, Scripto, a razor company called Wilkinson Sword. This was a conglomerate, and I was responsible for the telecommunications and the lines and the network and all that. So as I learned from my mentors and through inroads, I was able to articulate these pieces, really get the value back, learn how a company is set up, learn the difference between being a switchboard operator and watching all that migrate. I remember when Ma Bell was the only telecommunications company, and then you had the Baby Bells and all that. So in my responsibility, I then had to negotiate with all these different vendors, because one year you had one phone company. The next year you had NYNEX, you had Ameritech, you had Bell South, all of this mess overnight. I had to quickly learn that and then communicate back to all the leaders. Here's how we should make our business decisions. This company should handle our long distance. This company should handle our local. This company should be a direct bat phone to this other line, all that, like Watts lines is what we called them. So I had to quickly immerse myself, do the business, and that taught me the urgency of getting things done. So yeah, sometimes it was sloppy because they knew I was coming in as an intern, but I was blessed with a lot of grace, because as long as I was able to get the concept down, I could then go back and polish it, but also keep on working at it. And I've learned a lot of resilience and persistence through that. I really have.
So, the young person that's looking at the show right now today,
Yeah.
what would you tell them, or what could you say to them that they should be thinking about in this age of technology? What are some of the things that they should do in order to move their careers forward?
I love that question. Conceptually, I have embraced AI, and I treat AI and its various AI agents and various platforms like dogs. In my mind, it's a dog that potentially can talk and talk back to you. But if you train it, you can trust that dog. If you misuse it or don't have a chain on it or don't have guardrails around it, it can bite you if you don't feed it properly. So that's the way I typically articulate that to people that I'm training about AI. But you asked, in this day and age, what should a young person be aware of? Be aware that you can build your future. Get out there and learn it. Be a continuous learner, be a continuous leader, and know you always have something to offer. Even if you just have a perception of how something works, research it. Learn how to do research. Learn that you know, not think that you know. Learn that you know a topic, and then dwell on that, practice it, look in the mirror, become self-aware as how you're sharing that, and then go out and start sharing it with people. Hey, they might be talking about this, and this. Listen. Sometimes the loudest person in the room really doesn't know a lot. Just be succinct, be quiet, but when it comes time for you to talk, be deep, be brief, but be effective. So that's what I tell a young person right now. Be a continuous learner and be strong with it.
So, what were the defining moments that pushed you toward healthcare technology?
Yeah, it was that wonderful integration, a wonderful merger between what I was doing in my internship, but also, like I said, as a child, my parents had immersed me in. Think about it. I'm 5 years old. I'm up there in my mother's office or my dad's clinic. My dad was occupational therapist. So I'm up there working on clay pots and I'm working side by side with a guy who's coming back from Vietnam. He has PTSD, or I guess back then they used to call it being shell shocked. And he's coming in here, he's sitting there, and now he only has one arm. But I'm sitting there as a kid, and I, through that therapeutic method, am demonstrating when you get home and your son, who's my age, is going to wonder, why can't daddy hold me with two arms? So I'm fortunate that part of the therapy was I can work with that other kid, his kid, and demonstrate to him we can do this together. And in so doing, he's learning how to do other tasks with his other arm or with just one eye or whatever the case might be. So I was immersed with the reality of how people get injured. That's the healthcare side, but also how people can recover. I was immersed in the mental piece, the emotional piece, the spiritual piece, areas, and technology afforded me that to be. So later on, I became more of a leader in healthcare, and the opportunity for healthcare and technology together really was a springboard. I later became what was the title was co-chair of innovation and physician education for Mayo Clinic. So in doing that, I was on the team that was building early versions of electronic medical records. So think about it. Now, when you visit the doctor, I was literally on the team that was writing, here's what the doctor would say when you visit, and now saying, here's what we're going to type when we do it. I was on the team that was transitioning all of that. So that was powerful for me.
You know what's interesting about that is I remember back when I was in grad school, and we were
Yeah.
working on a project, and I don't. I think this young lady must have been in healthcare. I'm not sure exactly, but in our group, she wanted to do this thing that they're doing right now, which is something about how the technology is to store data, is to translate data, and some other kind of stuff. I mean,
Yep.
it was like fascinating, right?
Okay.
And so what we did was we actually made the mistake of the website that we created, made it go live, but we had to turn it off. But I'm fast forwarding up to now, like maybe like 10, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
And what you're seeing now is that in medical, everything is about the technology.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what made that transition happen and why was that so important?
There's a couple of factors that come to mind as to the transition from analog health to
Mhm.
digital health. The way I used to say it when I was mentoring and teaching was when you're analog and just writing things down, there's high potential for mistakes. When it's
Okay.
digital, you can correct it. You can create redundancy, which is a second version of it automatically, i.e., if something gets messed up or somebody scratches on your paper, with redundancy, you have the correct version or a test version. So, why today is it that way? Why is it that way? Because we've gotten better at documentation, or at least tools for documentation. But the human factor, which is another of our expertises, I've learned that human factors are still so important. Where you're sitting, how you're articulating, how you're breathing, all affects how you're memorizing or even saying what you need to say. So, to answer your question, short version, I can get wordy, is the healthcare pieces that are now digital should be easily integrated with other aspects of healthcare tools. When I talk about healthcare disparities, a lot of that is human driven because the tools are out there. It's a matter of who wants to make a buck off of it. It's a matter of who the doctor or physicians or clinicians or providers are who are providing the care. And then some of that is choice. You will see so many cases across the board and just in life, where you'll see one type of person get one type of care, but another person with the exact same issue will get a different type of care. Is that just insurance, or is it human factors? Is it someone making a decision, a conscious decision? And that's what I'm continue to preach about. Preach, teach, and advocate. Balanced clinical expression, but all of us should be having the right to be healthy, the right to healthcare, and access to healthcare.
So, what is the greatest lesson life taught you before your career ever began?
Wow. To learn how to love, to learn how to forgive, and to know that I am not perfect, make mistakes, but also can give grace when mistakes are made. I have learned that I get a lot farther flying in a flock that's flying in the same direction than singular flying solo going the wrong direction. You know?
I agree with that
Hey,
500%.
yep.
How do you stay grounded while operating in high pressure, high stakes environments?
One, I am self-aware. So imposter syndrome tends to not happen. I won't step into something knowingly that I don't feel I'm ready for. But if I need to be jumping into a crisis, I'm going to bring the best I know that I can bring and have faith that God will give me what I need in the moment of care. So I can't say that I can even think of a time when I've jumped in and been over my head, but I can say that I've been blessed with opportunities to get into crises, manage through it, and all of us get through it together.
Well, I have an interesting comment here that I'm sure you would love to respond to.
What's
This
that?
is from Peter Yasser. I'll put it on the screen. He says
Okay.
it's an interesting talk. He's Peter. He's a software engineer from Kampala. He said
Okay.
he's built digital tools both before the AI boom and in today's AI driven environment. One
Okay.
challenge stands out more than ever: distribution. Building a product is becoming easier with AI, but getting it in front of the right users and achieving meaningful adoption remains the hardest part. I love to hear your thoughts on how founders and developers can solve the distribution problem in this new era.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, for that great question. I would say that the question you're calling distribution is actually a go to market question. So when we're looking at traction of an idea, product, or service, you're really looking at, have you found your beachhead? What is the right customer for that product? And are you introducing to them, I'm solving your pain point? Therefore, they should be raving fans and coming to you saying, I know you have what we need, and then pulling it from you. Or are you building something and then looking for an audience? You've got to do it in sync where you've tested it, piloted it, and then know what your right audience looks like. And then distribution, the marketing, the communication, etc., the groundswell will also help you get it out there. But I agree with you that it's challenging, particularly when you have AI tools that can build an app from scratch just based on you saying, hey AI, hey chat, hey Claude, I have an idea for this. Please build me this tool that does this. And therefore you have extra competition just from AI generating something. But it's really important to be able to articulate, here are the features and the benefits of what I'm building. Here's how it addresses your issue, your pain point. And then likewise, as I teach over at University of Houston, operations management, talk about the various facets of how it fits in and makes that pain go away, or at least solves their problem. But don't just solve it and walk away, be there for maintenance. So hopefully that helped to answer your question, but I do agree with you and I echo, it is challenging. It's very challenging now because you have an entirely different marketplace than you did prior to AI. AI is faster. Everything's just 10 times faster.
Here is another comment here. I wanted to ask, well, before that, I want to follow up and I want to ask you something else that was a part of Peter's question and quote.
Okay.
Like, what about the abusers of AI, people that's misusing AI? Because if it's being misused, then that means that the purpose is not going to be received. What do you do about that portion? Because today's time with a lot of the younger folk, They're like using AI for everything. But I think there's a time and a place for that. What
There
about
is.
that?
There is. So there is a time and a place. Let's start with that. There is a time and a place for everything. I'm blessed to work with a gentleman. We've built a tool called Dolphin Parents, and Dolphin Parents embeds AI, and it actually works as a student writes and then loads in, hey, I wrote an essay on this. The AI evaluates that person's style and their writing. It then communicates back to the student and their parent. Here's the style of writing. Hey, your kid's in 8th grade, but they're writing at an 11th grade level. They might want to look at this college just based on the writing samples. So the tool acts like a dolphin parent and guides a person along, and they can use it all the way through college and into life, or even in grad school or in trade school. So we've used AI, like I said before, as a trained advocate, both feeding it, here's what you typically want and do, and have the guardrails on there. But to your point, the abuse comes when those that are applying it, using it, or even managing it aren't aware of its capabilities, haven't set up standards, policies, etc., or even aware of laws that they could do in terms of practice in their setting. Think about it like this. If you already do work a certain way and AI is there to help you get that done, you should have some guidance on how you get things done. If you're just leaving it willy-nilly, that's all.
Okay, well, there is, well, Peter says he appreciates that.
Don't leave things willy-nilly for now.
Yeah, well, okay, now you're back. It's, yeah, you kind of like slowed all the way down. Okay, Peter says he appreciates,
Repeat what I said. Have governance.
okay.
So it says that I'm restarting. So I'll be happy to re-answer the last question if you need me to.
Well, no, I was going to put the next quote up, but I just want to tell you, Peter said he appreciate that.
Okay. Be in touch,
Uh,
Peter. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
this next quote here is by Dr. Brown. He says AI may be solving the wrong bottleneck. Historically, building the product was the hard part. Today, building is becoming commoditized. The new bottleneck is attention, trust, and credibility, which means many founders aren't competing against other products anymore. They're competing against noise.
That's very true. So as I work with founders, I'm involved here in Houston in what's called Startup Circle. And here at the Houston Ion, and also at the Texas Medical Center Innovation Center, and also just around the whole community, out in Plug and Play, out in Sugarland, just outside of Houston, we will look at what people are doing and building, but also wanting to ask them, okay, put your computer down. Tell me what it does. And it's that same old test that you used to do years ago. Somebody can come in with a speech and break it down. You like say, I want to hear in your words what it does. That's the test. The acid test is asking a founder if they can explain it in their own words and can explain it to a 5th grader as well as to a college grad. That's the test, being able to translate what really is going on. If that's not there, then the competence and the research isn't really embedded. It's not genuine. And that's the noise that we're talking about, being able to do the vetting. And we have to become more critical in doing vetting, because someone like me who's over 40, I know right away I'm going to be vetted out of the mix if I step in and say, I'd like to jump in and jump on a project and be paid for it by a typical Fortune 500 company, because they're going to say, oh, you're too high priced, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot that comes with that being high priced, right? If I'm coming in with genuine knowledge and experiences, there should be a value tied to that. Whereas someone else much younger maybe comes in and carries their AI with them and then gets you a product that's completed. But if you ask them without their AI to explain that product, they may, I'm not saying all cases, but they may have difficulty in breaking it down. So the question really is, Are you looking for someone to get things done, or are you looking for someone to actually be knowledgeable as they share it? I personally prefer to earn an A rather than be given an A. You ever ask a kid, how'd you get that grade? And they say, oh, the teacher gave me a C. Nah, I like to hear when a student says, I earned a C. There's a difference because we're telling ourselves, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
This one just popped up here in the chat. I'll put it on the screen.
Cool.
Computers are a bunch of switches. It's just that the switches are very, very tiny. Then he concludes that with the next thing I put on the screen. He says, actually relays, not switches.
Okay, so he's talking telecommunications language. So relays and switches, just like in engineering. So if something has throughput, think about this. I'm going to break down that river analogy again. A river boat is going down a river, and you reach a point. In fact, we can even use what's going on over in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf. You have things sitting in a port that can't get all the way through. Those are switches. Those are channels, right? What's that area called that the ships are not allowed to go through?
The Straits of Hormuz.
The Straits of Hormuz is a ship channel, much like the Panama Canal. Things pass through there. But if you've ever watched how that works, the water comes in, fills it, and then you drop through and it goes through, and you have to have permission to go all the way through. It's the same way it is when you're talking communications, telecommunications. The signal has to go through the line. Even wireless, it has to be able to go through without too much noise. So all of that is when he's talking about the switches and all that. Yeah, that's telecom, that's throughput, etc. So I appreciate you saying computer. Don't oversimplify, but computers are a wonderful tool to get a lot of things done. I look at, frankly, when I think about computers, I think about the incredible way that the price of storage has dropped. Someone who remembers those giant floppy disks.
Oh my God, do I?
Right, but how much could they store? And now you think about we're storing terabytes on our hard drives, or storing even more in the cloud. It's incredible. That to me is the big part about computing. I'm building a data lake for a client, a data lake. That way, all the data is dumped into something the size of a lake. And if you want to pull a report out of there, you just go pull all the variables out, put them together and say, okay, how these things all tie together, and then pull out the appropriate report. So it's an amazing thing. I've watched that change so much over the last 30, 40 years.
And Dr. Brown says, absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
So can you tell, what does success mean to you today compared to 20 years ago?
Oh, wow. So 20 years ago, I was focused on work performance daily, work performance to a manager and how they saw me, but also making sure that I was being the best dad for my sons and to my spouse and to my broader family and community. Now I know who I am as far as looking in the mirror and saying, define yourself in this many words, right? So to all persons in my inner circle, in my village, as I like to call it, I am me. I try to be very consistent, and that's success. But also success is when you love people enough that you can be open and honest with them, but also hear open and honestly when they tell you what's up. That's success, because you don't always have all the money in your pocket you want. But someone once told me, you might want to be a millionaire, but if your budget is $1 billion budget, guess what? You're in poverty because you haven't reached the level you need to be at. So success isn't monetary. It's a state of mind. It's a state of self-awareness of what you need to get things done the way you want them to be done. I remember years ago, a really good friend used to always say to me, this isn't life if I can't afford the standard of living that I want. And I would always challenge, well, how do you plan to get that? And therefore, there's the challenge. Getting that standard of living, having peace of mind in your heart, in your soul, in your spirit, but also being able to say, I can step out without fear to do these things. And I'll tell you what, I wear this every day, and that's part of my success. I will sit with a client, and if they have a trouble, if I don't know the thing, we start off with prayer. I'm like, God, give us the spirit to know how we can get through this and give us some fresh ideas. And I'll tell you what, there's a number of times where right away ideas start to come. We're like, where did that come from? Oh, I'm a vessel. I open myself up. I want the vessel to be filled up with the right ideas, with the right spirit, with the right mindset. So that's success for me. I feel very blessed and successful.
Well, I've got two quick quotes here. Here's
Sure.
one that I remember using discs that were the size of dinner plates. LOL.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In
And
fact, go ahead.
Peter says it's really interesting to be here with the tech OGs in the house with a smile.
Appreciate that. It's a joy because when you think about how much tech has changed over the years, there are people who can still do things in old type tech. But something I like to say to people who grab applications off the shelf means you buy a finished product off the store, pop it in. That is still written in an old language, and the shell around it is something that's built so that a person can quickly adapt it or utilize it now. But someone who's built the shell or built the outer user interface can appreciate what it took to go from the idea to inception to application, and then actually to have a finished product or a finished service. So OGs in the house, it's a beautiful thing because we're needed but to understand, and if everything broke down, if all the electricity went out, you also got to know how to do it in analog form rather than digital. So that's the real OG piece. And I applaud doctors who, when that system breaks down, know how to do things without the computers now. Because we have, to your point earlier, we have become far more digital. I had surgery last year, and they used a robotic arm to do the surgery. So I think about how the precision of that surgery was not available in my youth. I
Well, can
had
you tell us? Go ahead.
surgery. I was all life. And this will just prove there's some wonderful.
So, what legacy do you hope your children? What legacy do you hope your children and community see in your work? Dr. Brown has another comment here. Let me put it on the screen for you. He says 20 years ago, success was measured by what you own. And today, it may be measured by what owns you, your schedule, your attention, your debt, your obligations, your algorithms. Maybe success isn't accumulation anymore. Maybe it's autonomy. LOL. move over to your work as the CEO of Teb Tech Biz LLC. Tell us what inspired you to launch Teb Tech. So, what problems does your company solve that others often overlook? Well, I think literally it might not, but it definitely still exists. And I think it's about how that actually, well, I guess it depends upon a lot of the companies and what they consider to be service. So, how do you approach digital transformation differently from traditional consulting firms? So, what is the most challenging part of modernizing healthcare systems? Mm. Okay. There's
Are we
a
there?
yes, you're here. There's a couple of messages here I want you to hear, but the audience is having some difficulty.
Okay.
Mr. Timothy, Peter just stated, Mr. Timothy, my network is
Yes.
glitching and I'm not able to hear you clearly. It's late in the morning on his side, and so he says, so I think I'll catch up with the recording later. Thank you, everyone, for the insightful
Okay.
discussion, and a special thank you to Mr. Charles for organizing such an amazing session. I really enjoyed being a part of it and learning from all the tech OGs in the house. Dr. Brown just put in the chat. He says, "I'm able to hear. He's able to hear me clearly, but he's unable to hear you, Mr. Butts."
Okay. I'm happy to repeat or repair any short snippets of anything that may have been lost in translation or in communication. So I know that you asked a question around healthcare, and I'll say it
Yes.
slower and more distinctly. In healthcare, when you make mistakes, people can die. That to me is the great differentiator when you're talking technology in healthcare. I have to go into every contract and engagement knowing that I hold the life of someone in my hands. So I've purposefully have been mentored by surgeons, the heads at Mayo Clinic, at Texas Medical Center, at Temple University, at Indian Health Services, Presbyterian Health. And these doctors have told me we can't make mistakes because people are on the table. So I go into it with a lot of care and I work slowly, meticulously when needed, but I work fast and specifically when needed.
So tell us, how do you help organizations adopt AI responsibly and ethically?
Ethics in AI is still being developed. If you
Mm.
watch the news every day, you have people fighting over which AI platform should even exist,
Yep.
right? But we as consumers, I think it's our responsibility to both know what AI and the AI agents and AI tools are, to go out and practice, get certifications, learn how to train your animal. I use AI to the extent where my piece will read my emails, summarize, here's what's happened the day before. And then as I'm getting up in the morning saying, thank you, God, for waking me up, it's also saying, here's your agenda for the day. So my AI has been trained by me to be my advocate. So that's responsible use of a technology. There are those who just use it the way they would and asking Google, hey, Google, I want to do this. Or hey, Siri, play me this song. That's not how you use AI. AI, you can do and say, I'd like for a shirt made of this material and this size and these measurements to be made, and then use that specific guide, those prompts into a um, a digital printer and then build and make a shirt. But that's knowing what tools you have available and knowing how to integrate them all together. So there are amazing things we can build and train and teach with using the technology we have at our fingertips. But we also need to learn the capabilities of it as we are applying it and learning about it. So I encourage people. LinkedIn Learning is a great place. I'm developing a whole curriculum for my peers in Inroads and Inroads alumni. I'm also teaching through my company. Here are aspects of AI certifications. I proudly print out list of things that companies and HBCUs are doing for free to make sure that you, the general public, can learn AI, get certifications, and take those classes for free. So it's not like it's not accessible. I'm just asking people to be lifetime learners, go out there and learn it, or at least stick your feet in the water and learn what's up. Don't run in fear. Face it and see what it's all about. Then, once you know something about it, if you become an advocate and you know how to train your animal, great. But don't go running from an animal because that makes no sense.
Hey, I wanna ask you a follow up on that last question because the at the end of that question when it says the ethically part, and you said that they're still trying to do AI and ethics right now at this point.
Yeah,
With that being said, can I ask you this? Do you
yeah.
think it's a fair assessment that for now the way the younger generation is using AI, they use it for everything, especially in their college experience? Do you think that with that experience, that it's the right thing to have an AI to check the AI to see about using works that's not yours?
Great question. I'll start with that. Great question. And I think that that is a question that a lot of people are asking. I don't want to
Mhm.
answer the question that I want to answer. I want to answer your question. So,
Okay.
okay. All right. Because I've been a politician, I've run for Congress before. So I know how to dodge
Okay.
questions. But this one I'm going to
Okay.
meet head on.
Okay.
When you're talking ethics, ethics is a funny word. We all know in our own business system, a company can make widgets, create waste, and know that they've created $1 million worth of waste, but know that in creating that extra money for themselves, they only have to pay a $200 fine. Is that ethical? So that's where I start with my questions on ethics. So now let's jump into the use of AI in the classroom and in communities. If we have a rapidly advancing tool, resource that everyone has in their pocket. Same thing happened when these when the personal communication devices first came out, which is when they evolved to smartphones. How should they be used? Where should they be used, etc.? It's going to take a while for law to catch up to it. It's going to take a while for use cases to catch up. So I have an opinion where those that have responsibility for an environment should already have policies, procedures, and practices in place at an analog level that they are constantly working to evolve into a digital policy and practice. That way, when new digital tools come in, you're able to quickly look at here's an example of this. Let's have our governance team talk about how that's working. And then through use cases, then say, this is what we want the situation to be. We see examples where it was misused. And based on that precedent, let's change it. Let's have this new rule. Unfortunately, at the front end, we are all guinea pigs. That's just nature of human beings because you don't know what you don't know. Someone might say, here's a new tool, here's how it's probably going to be. But until you've actually interacted with it and had a few use cases, you really don't know. Hence, when I'm teaching technology, doing technology, building technology, we do pilots, we do user interface, we have tests. I remember back at Mayo, we used to do what we call gorilla test. We would just put something in a room and have physicians come in and interact with it. They might pick it up not knowing what it is, but we would be able to watch how intuitive is it? How strong is it? How well Can a person pick up what its purpose is? All those types of things. So those types of user tests and interactive tests, even with AI, are very important. I don't feel that places like schools that don't have governance, if a school doesn't have governance, let me say that this way, if a school doesn't have governance over resources that can be brought in the front door, I feel it's irresponsible. I've been on school boards before. You need to have governance. You need to have school boards that are actually there to help the schools and the kids move forward, not to try to be the leaping stone to run for governor, right? Because
Right.
oftentimes school districts are like, hey, if I want to run for governor, I better get in a school district now and then run for this and then run for this. No, be responsible in the role that you're in. So if you have AI and other resources coming into a place, be responsible, do governance training. I would challenge everybody on watching this, learn what I mean when I say governance, and then see if you've done it and how to do it better. And then also take a couple of Law 101 classes and learn what that is in terms of governance, and try to put that into your general think, become a more responsible person, a bit more how should you move.
Okay. Um, so what trends in healthcare technology excite you the most right now?
Wow. I love that robots are being introduced. I watch healthcare and the incorporation of document integration and being able to be sure that what we are documenting is accurate and retained in systems. I like in healthcare when physicians can use technology to aid them and be able to speak to their patient and let them know, here's what I did, but here's what the technology did, and as a whole unit, here's what we did for you. So the appreciation of a clinician of what technology is doing to promote them is one thing I love about technology today. One thing I don't like is that it's not balancing the scales of who has access to technology. There are some things where the price should be coming down. There are places where people should be getting access for free healthcare. That's not happening, and I don't know why the heck it isn't, and I'm ticked about it.
Mhm. Dr. Brown just dropped a comment here. Put it on the screen for you. He
Okay,
says, no, we need assumptions governance.
that's funny. I try to never make assumptions, but I try to provide governance. So if I'm not aware of the topic and know that I know factual facts, as my friend in the UK used to always say, then I'm not going to be the one for the governance of it. But I will be there to listen and see the logic that a person has used in using a resource or in doing a task. That's part of it, being logical. Everyone has a little bit of Mr. Spock in them from Star Trek, and watching for the logic. Ask a person, tell me the logic around what you were doing and thinking as you did this, and then listen, because people will tell on themselves. But as far as that assumptions governance, nah, I don't like making assumptions. Don't do it.
How do you balance innovation with regulatory compliance?
Regulatory compliance, I stay well versed in. As things change, and think about it, every administration and every leader at the federal level changes regulations. And then you have leadership in organizations that change the regs as to how people should act, the policies, procedures, etc. And then even, well, how do I do it? I listen, and then I look for the logic, and then I look for evidence of that logic being applied.
Well, now I got to ask you this, Tim, because I think when you meant what you just said was actually really major. Because you're right, every administration changes regulations, but now with regulations being totally, totally just off the cliff, off the rails, there's no regulations, and we have this AI that's just sprouting every second.
Yep.
And so, because the regulatory system is not working to enforce any laws, which
Right.
puts us in this time of folkways and mores.
Yep.
How can we, the people itself in general, especially coming along with a great company like yours, how do we get this back on the rails to make it work and stay within those confines anyway, especially in knowing logically and morally that you can't just be willy-nilly with something like this?
Right. You can't be willy-nilly. Factual fact. You can't be. We shouldn't be. A responsible person should not be willy-nilly. A responsible person needs to have a baseline. That's what it's called when you know the know. And here's what it is. Here's the landscape. So know that the landscape probably was last established by the last credible, see, I'm showing my politics here. I'm going to say it, by the last credible administration. So there are times where I'll reach back to the last time that the census was done accurately, and then look at the changes from that. I'm very critical of things like that. Frankly, knowing that so many people use misnomers, generalizations, I try to bypass and ask people for factual facts. So this is going to get some feedback, the next statement I'm about to make, but I'm going to say it because it's part of what makes me up. When a person says, hey, you're black, I'm white, I tend to come back with, what is white? Are you Irish? Are you English? Are you Turkish? Help me out with that. Help me understand your legacy. Help me understand your descendants. That way, when you make that statement, which is a generalization, help me understand the details. Because as a technologist, the devil's in the details. I, as a black man, know that I am generations removed from Ethiopia. So I've done the lineage, done the ancestry, all of that stuff. So for me, it's important to know the grassroots of what I'm talking about and then being able to build upon that. Likewise, it's a very important thing for us to know our history and build upon that. Because if you don't know your history, the bad things may come back and bite you in the butt again if you don't know what happened the last time and then see evidence of what's coming around again. So I'm just constantly aware. I'm a student of history. I'm a student of technology, but also knowing the devil's in the details.
Okay. What does a human-centered design look like in healthcare IT?
So human-centered design, evidence-based activities is vital. So I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer it. Okay. So human-centered, putting the human first, the human factor first. I want to do things that's going to help human beings do better, make sure that I'm providing something that I'm aware, acutely aware of the human factor, of who my customer is, but also knowing what it is that I'm providing, be it a service, a tool, a service, a tangible resource, that it's something that people can use and that it's going to be friendly to humankind. So human-centered for me means humankind awareness and how that all integrates together.
So in that case, I mean, wouldn't your subjects or the people in general have to have knowledge already of this situation in order to have that enacted?
Not necessarily. Some things are intuitive. And I do watch how people behave when they're faced with something they haven't been in front of before, or in the midst of before. So I don't want to compare it. I don't want to compare it to a mouse in a maze. But when you're in a situation you're not familiar with, typically you're going to react looking around, trying to find a way where you can move. I know how I am. If I'm in traffic, I might take something that might take me 5 miles longer, but I want to be moving. So I might get out of traffic and do that. To me, that's more of a human thing. Some people are patient, more patient than me. But in terms of providing people with tools, and you said people naturally doing things a certain way, I believe the idea of something being intuitive is vital. And being able to have a tested resource where you already know the user interface is something that's understandable through testing, that's something that's going to be user-centric. So therefore, I can feel safe handing it off to other people so they can use it in a good way.
Dr. Brown just put something else here in the chat. Let me read. I put it on the screen. He says, no, what I meant by assumption governance isn't making assumptions.
Okay.
It's governing the body, the beliefs, and expectations that decisions are built upon. Every strategy, investment, and major decision is based on assumptions about how the world works. Assumption governance is
Okay, I
process.
get it.
Okay.
Okay, I get it. So I had a conversation. I was over at Stanford doing some classes last week, and the topic around healthcare improvement came up. A very learned colleague next to me said, if we're in here talking about, and I'm going to use the word assumption governance, and help me if I'm wrong on this use, question asker. If we are always trying to solve and come up with new solutions based upon the constrictions or the constraints of a certain methodology, then we are in fact not blowing everything up and disrupting the way we think we are. We are merely still working within the confines of certain sets of rules, but only changing some of them. I.e., if that's what you mean by assumption governance, then yes, there are certain I like certain hypotheses that go into the whole thing. Times assumption governance or proof positive, it's all in semantics. I think maybe I could be tested wrong. Let's have coffee and talk about that, but I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole because I want to be able to fully articulate and understand the question. But I think I've hit on where I think he's coming from. Does it seem that I have?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so. But well, Dr. Brown, if this is what you're asking in that question, could you please put your response back in the chat? The next question I have for you, sir, is
Yes.
what is the biggest misconception organizations have about digital transformation?
It's a misnomer. Oftentimes, there are a lot of buzzwords. Someone can say something is vitamin fortified, right? Something can say this is pure juice. All those types of things. It's the same thing. Oftentimes, organizations will throw buzzwords out there to get more people to buy a product or to use their service. So, in terms of digital transformation, for me, I have witnessed and have been the leader of analog moving to digital. Case in point, we used to visit a doctor, they would open a paper record and they'd say, I see the last time you visited, it was this. Now you visit a doctor, they pull out a computer and they're typing things in. That to me is digital transformation. The user interface has changed from analog to digital. Now, how you store it continues to evolve. But that for me is an example of analog to digital and digital transformation. Some companies might say our upgrade and increasing how we do our data points or how we do our use of data is making things digital transformation. I like to look at asking what the old version was, what did you sunset, what did you put away, and what did you lift up and now say, here's the new way to do it. And then compare the two and how you make that transition. Those are measures of digital transformation, transformation from something to something. Show me the roadmap of what it was and what it's going toward, and then you can start talking about digital transformation.
What is the future vision for Teb Tech Biz?
Growth. We've evolved already and become a nonprofit and a for-profit. We have found that being a duality and being an S Corp is very useful for the people we serve. I like to work with the underserved community as well as with the Fortune 100. So by being a Fortune 100 focused company or a underprivileged company, having a nonprofit organization to be able to reach out and get grants, to be able to keep the wheels turning, grease the skids, very appropriate. But also we like to educate, teaching people things like how taxes could be aligned to get you in a position where your company's running efficiently. We want to just get better and be thought leaders and applying good thoughts towards serving our community, ourselves, and our world. That's how we differentiate ourselves. That's what we're focused on, and that's what we're most proud of.
Yeah, when we talked earlier, I mentioned that we do Black History
Okay.
365, and I asked you who are the most influential people in your life and career. You mentioned your mother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Can you tell us why are these people the most influential people in your life and career?
It's tangential. My mother, because she birthed me, but as the mother of all of my siblings and the person who brought me in, thank God, she has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate so much strength and has been a great role model in that strength. I'll come back to my mother.
Okay.
Martin Luther King, because growing up, I both witnessed Martin Luther King alive, but also witnessed and watched the reports of his death, which in turn led me to do more research on his life. And then when I became a deacon in in my teenage years, being closer to God, I started to look at alignment of things that I wanted to aspire to, certain values. So being Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, that really resonated with me. I wanted to be spiritual in my leadership. I wanted to be educated in my leadership, as well as being able to say what needed to be said. I love also Malcolm X because also he was able to say what needed to be said. So when you ask me the question, I just let the words roll out of my mouth as to what, but that whole time frame, the civil rights movement, I'm a child of the civil rights movement. So understanding the power of that. In my later years, I learned to appreciate the things that John F. Kennedy did and the things that Lyndon B. Johnson did. And in so looking at the Civil Rights Act, which was Lyndon B. Johnson, not Kennedy, but that whole alignment of change that happened by virtue of people pivoting over to the Democratic Party, that's another piece that a lot more people need to study and understand the reason why those things happened. I'm not going to get on that rabbit hole right now, but people need to look at where blacks used to be. See, I say blacks, where African Americans, where Negroes all used to be part of one party, but the fragmentation of mindset and what we needed to know. How do we move forward? I look back and I watched the speeches from Cassius Clay and when he
Mhm.
became Muhammad Ali and how he stood strong with that. So I like to be a child of history and read these things and understand. And then lastly, Jesse Jackson, I met him in real life, and he being one of the peers and being mentored by Martin, it was a great thrill for me to be able to talk, shake hands, etc. with him. So that's also why that resonated. But that also is one of the things that powered me into wanting to be and willingness to be effective as a NAACP president. So I'm willing to go out there and stand for a cause. I have strong convictions. And if somebody wants a strong advocate, I'm going to do my homework and stand strong on what I'm about to say when I say it. So those individuals, all three of them, my mom, Martin Luther King, and Jesse, all carry that characteristic. And my mom still is that same way today. Like I said before, she's 102, still going to the gym, able to dribble basketballs, man, like this, boom, 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 boom. So just blows my mind, but I'm just blessed to see her.
So, how do you carry the legacy of these three giants in your everyday life and in your career?
Sure. When I make a conviction towards doing something and I feel I'm doing it the right way, I will look at any audience and tell them, here's why I'm doing this. Here's what I'm attempting to get accomplished. And here's why I know God's by my side. If I'm ever trying to fight an uphill battle against God, and I would not do that, but if I ever was, I would let you know up front, I'm about to do something real stupid. But on the flip side, all three of those individuals clearly in my memory articulated that belief in God as being a driving force in what they were doing, but also the images that are embedded in my head and who my mom, my family, my peers were able to introduce me to throughout my life. I was able to really take a lot from all three of them. Heck, my mom, I remember her introducing me to August Wilson when I was in Pittsburgh. She's like, this man wrote this play. I was like, really? And I was like, meeting August Wilson. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that I've experienced. I mean, when I was in Inroads, we had the opportunity to meet people who were writing business books so that we would learn things. So one day I got to have lunch with this guy writing a book about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I was like, "Oh, and what's your name?" He says, "Hi, my name's Covey, Stephen Covey." And I'm like, "Nice to meet you." And we sat and we talked. And later on in life, I realized, wait, that's the Stephen Covey that I had lunch with when I was a kid? Those types of things. So yeah, I appreciate the people I've interacted with, and I take lessons and from the opportunities and experiences, and I share them with other people. But Martin Luther King, powerhouse. Uh, Malcolm X, powerhouse. But I want to be able to have that type of impact and effect on the people that I'm around. I'm not a perfect person, but I sure try to do an effective job at what I'm blessed to go out and fight for. And that's why I spoke for those three fighters as mentors and guides for me.
So what effects, from your mother, does she have on your career today as you become the businessman that you are?
um, Reinforcement. My mom is one disciplined, both permission, discipline and their side. She made a high word priority, and my mom was all about priority and saying out loud to her audience, "Here are the priorities, and here's why I'm doing this, or here's why I believe this, or here's why we are going through this," but establishing clear priority. That's something that to this day is on my business card. Being able to prioritize your day, and if it's not a priority, it shouldn't be on your calendar.
Dr. Brown has just responded. Let me put his response here on the screen for you. He says, yes, you have the right gist of it. It's a little deeper than that, but I was really just clarifying what I meant by the term. And yes, I'll definitely take you up on that cup of coffee one day. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. So in closing,
Okay.
do you what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you have for our audience, how they could connect with you via social media, your websites, all of those good things that you'd like for them to know?
Thank you so much. Well, first, and again, thank you for being a wonderful host, for being a great moderator of very intriguing and inspiring questions. You had me thinking, but you also had me digging deep in my own heart and mind about my own beliefs. Because if I'm going to share America black and white, I want to make it crisp and clear. I don't want to leave a gray area. But also, I love the fact that you have this platform. I invite you to future platforms of mine. And as I work in the innovation space, we are coming up with tools like Me Problems, where we talk with startup companies and their founders and ask them, do you have a personal board of directors? We ask them, when you look in the mirror, how much do you like that guy you see? Did he do a great job today? And through that, having better dialogues. Other words of wisdom: make the pie bigger so that all at the table can eat. If you can build so that all at the table can eat, then that's a great way to build. Because at the end of the day, there are people who need, and there are people who otherwise can't even get to the table. But if we work with intentionality of being able to build with the intention of making sure all at the table can eat, and frankly, even after extra, then it's kind of the mindset of Jesus sharing the loaves of bread and fish. So I love that. So I would love to share that, leave that as a memento of this conversation. Um, I'm blessed by again by my sons and the work that they're doing, and I am just so grateful that you had this opportunity to chat. And when you're in Houston, please look me up. How to reach me: tebtech.biz, biz is our website, and reaching out via organizations. I try to do more travel and speaking in public on platforms of politics, of arts and politics, of STEM, STEAM, and just getting more people engaged and aware of what is technology so they're not fearful of it, but instead better researchers of what we can do together. I'm also real big on building an ideology of community, because oftentimes people will go into solitude or silos and not share or try to lift other people up. Why not be kind to the people next to you? Why not try? Why not try to be kind? Because if we know so much, but we're hurting ourselves through things like war and just dropping bombs on people, are we really loving each other? And last, but certainly not least, I'm blessed that God has me here for this opportunity. I'm grateful. I am a prayerful person, and I prayed before coming into this. I pray every morning, and I know that God has me still here for a reason. And I hope that this conversation has been a blessing to someone. If I've affected one person in a positive way, then our work here is done.
Well, before I close, I got 3 comments here for you here in the chat. This is LinkedIn user. Of course, I put it on the screen. Says
Okay.
amazing point, priority. That's a great episode. Pleasure to meet Timothy. Yes, please. A word of wisdom. Wow. Build the intention that everyone can eat. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Then he ended that with definitely a great, intelligent conversation.
Cool. Love it. Love it.
Dr. Brown says, great conversation. Thank you for entertaining my questions. And LinkedIn user just put in again, kindness is powerful. We must be blind to hate and open to love and acceptance.
Here.
And so so as I close, I want to ask, once I close the show, do you have a couple of minutes to stand by?
I sure do.
Okay, so in closing, I want to thank each and every guest that's been here, everybody from the audience, your questions, everything was wonderful. I definitely appreciate that. This is the purpose of the platform, is to get you involved and to learn from the greats that we do have here for that teaching moment. I want to thank you all, and I appreciate it. For those of you that are looking at the show and are visiting on any of our platforms, especially the YouTube platforms, if you have not yet subscribed, I ask if you would please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications to allow yourself the opportunity to get the notifications when the shows are going live, where you will be able to just watch the shows. You're also able to go back and watch each and every episode that we have recorded, and you can learn the lessons of each and every professional that's here, that's giving the information to help people to not only be motivated and inspired, but to help in building their communities. In closing, tonight we witnessed the power of a mind committed to innovation and a heart committed to humanity. Timothy E. Butts Sr. reminds us that technology is not just about systems, it is about people. It is about equity. It is about building a future where every community has access to tools, care, and opportunities they deserve. In America in Black and White, we honor leaders who are shaping that future. Leaders who carry the lessons of their ancestors, the wisdom of their mentors, and the responsibility of their calling. Timothy's journey is a testament to what happens when brilliance meets purpose, when expertise meets compassion, and when leadership meets legacy. Thank you, Timothy, for your voice, your vision, and your work. And thank you, family, for joining us for another powerful conversation. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and stay committed to the work. I'm your host, Charles King. We will see you guys tomorrow night for another great show. You guys have a great evening.